So, welcome to the weekly live stream, Can't You Hear Me, Gnostic? And I'd like to say hello to the people who are already here, and that would be 9 Eland and Meandering Mystic. Oh, and I will be right back. Please let my empty chair be fine. I got to get something from the kitchen, especially since I'm sitting down for a while. And I'm back, because the kitchen is really right outside my bedroom door, and I don't have to keep my bedroom door closed anymore because I am now alone in the house. There will be no more TV sounds, and it's very, very peaceful. And the interesting, I mean, with the peace, you know, there's a sense of peace and freedom. Not that there was anything terrible, you know, I mean, it's just, but there is peace, great freedom of movement, and the kind, I guess, the biggest theme in what I'm experiencing here is expansion. I used to kind of have all my things in a few cupboards in a corner of the counter, and now I can put my stuff anywhere, and it's have the refrigerator to myself. I used to be confined to a little piece of the freezer and a bottom shelf, and it's crisper. I mean, it's been amazing. I do have people who've been helping me. It looks like when August 1st arrives, it'll arrive without too much sphincter clenching. Matter of fact, maybe none at all. Just regular tone. And so things are going well, and part of it is almost like there's like a detoxing that's going on. Not that it was toxic per se. Again, I speak with nuance, so I don't want anybody to think I said, oh, it was, you know, if I'm detoxing, it must have been a toxic situation. No, but it's just over time, toxins can build up. Who did let's see. Hello, Ellie and Pyramid 7 and Madfinger, Christopher Bryden. Yes, I will be living alone from now on. I have to call somebody who dropped by, apparently, when my roomies met. You know, oh, you know, somebody might be willing to have a roommate, but no, I don't want a roommate. I mean, somebody really, really astounding, but I mean, it's just great. It's great to be alone. It's great that the only sounds in this house are the ones I make. Hello, Callan. Let me get my mic a little closer to my face. And also the extra bedroom is now going to become the place where I do my body work and my healing work. And so I need to, you know, I'm going to set that up. Yeah, any room needs to have a certain amount of ambiance or feng shui to it. And I mean, I don't mind. I kind of like the idea of people living together, because you can get a lot of things done, but not just, you know, if you've ever done chemistry, you know, there are certain chemicals you should never throw together because you might get poor results. And we're at a point in Earth expansion and our experience on the planet, where it's almost like a mitosis is happening. It's almost like as if mitosis is how cells divide, and usually what happens, you know, one package of DNA goes into, you know, like kind of the DNA kind of doubles and then parts, and then you have two identical cells. This mitosis seems almost as if like there's almost like two different kinds of psychological DNA and each one is kind of forming its own cell. And so, like even with this, the concept of a community. I lived at Omega. Omega was a community. It was great. It was a wonderful, rich, lovely experience. But fortunately, I had my own tent, and that was, between my own boundary management, which took many forms. I could mix it up with people, or I could be totally alone. It was my call whether I was engaging or disengaged. So that's ideally the kind of setting to me for community. You can be engaged when you want, and when you seek it, and you're really up for it, and it's the thing to do. And then you can completely hermit, disengage. Okay, I better get out of the chat. And then you completely, disengage when you need to for mental health. I'm guessing, I'm noticing my volumes are a little bit different adjusted because I had taken my mixer downstairs to the basement to record Uncle Butchie's last rehearsal. And there's a few songs that are absolutely, I want them almost to be flawless, especially, and there's certainly one that I have there that this really sounds great. Maybe I'll even play it tonight. It's called Foggy Mountain Breakdown. I haven't broken it down, so it would be kind of tricky. I have to kind of click around. I don't quite remember exactly when it was. But I might do that a little bit later. So I woke up from a nap not so long ago. Got up earlier than usual because I went to sleep earlier than usual because it's so peaceful here that I'm actually kind of able to get a little bit closer to at least to my normal sleep cycle. My sleep cycle for years, I mean, even when I worked at Omega and had to be at work at noon. It was time, like I might have my hands on somebody at 12:05. No, sorry, we started at 12:15. We had to be there at noon, and then the session started at 12:15. So I had to, arise at 11 o'clock because then I had to walk about a quarter of a mile from my tent to where the dining room was, so I could have breakfast. Even though my breakfast was officially lunch. I think in the 6 years that I lived there, I worked there for 7, lived there for 6 months at a time. I think I was present at 5 breakfasts in 6 years, and each one of those years I was there 6 months at a time. I am not a lark. I am an owl. So for me, a good time to go to bed is 4 a.m. Not that I've never gone to bed earlier, but that's kind of like it. When 4 a.m. comes, it's like time to go to bed, because if you go to bed now, based on my old schedule, getting up at 11, I would get 7 hours sleep. And since I had to put out a lot of energy and work on people, and that was my profession, my integrity, my work ethic is not only do I show up when I'm expected, so that means... And that I did. I was not out sick one day in the 7 years I worked there. One day I showed up for work. They had no work for me. I was doing, I was having I had just started my Lyme disease problem, but Lyme disease isn't communicable. So there was no reason really for me to feel I shouldn't show up. If I could walk to work, I do there. But fortunately, they had no work they had no bookings. Sometimes in the morning, you might show up on time. They have no bookings, and then an hour or two later, some bookings show up. But they let me get off for a day. But anyway, so what is it? Show up, be on time, and be prepared. Bring the like if you're gonna the night before, you go to bed early enough to get enough sleep so that when you show up, you're not just kind of like showing up. You're ready to do what you do with integrity. So for me, I do love living alone, unless it is kind of like, let's call it, let's say a a higher quality community. And higher quality has nothing to do with, let's say, economic status. It's all about the individual and the kind of integrity. But integrity is core. But then, of course, there's also the emotional maturity. And emotional maturity seems to be something that is not taught in schools anymore. You could leave. It seems like you can leave college with a doctorate and still be a bit of a child. And children need parents to manage them. And so my whole thing is, when I'd much rather be alone than be with a a person who can't manage themselves. And it seems to be an expansion of that, or has been an expansion. I don't know if it's kind of gotten into an arrest period and then an ebb period. But anyway, expansion is going to be the kind of like the word to be working with and around tonight, the theme. And of course, using that as kind of as a counterpoint to concepts like ascension, which, when you think about it, ascension, it's like kind of almost like rungs on a ladder, ascending, kind of like. And so there's a certain kind of hierarchical aspect to it. It doesn't have to be, but let's say it lends itself to those kind of things. Okay, I'm gonna take a chance and look at the chat and see if I can hang in there. Oh, hello, Niche, and hello, Rufus Cat. Whose name? Hello, Vern. Oh, Foxadre got here. Excellent, excellent. So Foxadre, it looks to me like the moon was like at the left claw of the crab. What do you have for us? Hey, Sam Webster, how are you? No apologies required, Foxadre. This is be here when you can or want to be. But I guess I figure in a minute or so I'll get whether or not you agree that the moon seemed to be arising in the left claw of the crab. Okay. Well, I saw the crescent, but it's a little tricky. So when I saw the crescent, I ran inside and opened up Stellarium, and I could see the moon. And it was just a little bit. It had gotten a little bit dark, so obviously the moon had moved out. But it was just, at least with the artwork, because in Stellarium you can look at just where the stars are, then you can see the straight lines, and then they'll give you the kind of the artwork of it. And according to the artwork overlay, it would have kind of, I guess, at the time of, because Stellarium, it gives you real-time reading. It looked to me like it would have been right in like kind of the left claw of the crab. And one of the more interesting things that happened in Stellarium, while I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at the Big Dipper, and I see something, you know, and Stellarium lists the planets, and I see something that has no name. Everything there is named. The stars are named, the planets are named. And there's this thing going by the ladle of the Big Dipper, and it's kind of traveling from west to east on it. And it was making a pretty good clip, you know, on, like, it was kind of like traveling, like, let's say a half an inch every 5 or so seconds. And I'm like, what's that? So I ran outside, because, again, Stellarium is real time. So I ran outside, and I could not see anything moving in that same sector of the sky. And I stayed out there for a little bit, tried peripheral vision, I tried all kinds of ways, and they didn't list what it was, but there was something moving across the sky, and it wasn't like moving like, you know, a meteorite, you know, streaks across the sky. This was kind of like trucking across the sky, so to speak. The Bible says a lot of things we should probably ignore. I see somebody says, Rufus says, the Bible says I'm supposed to kill you. Yeah. I could wax sarcastic on certain books, but I'm feeling in a pretty good place. Still working on my coffee. Set my alarm so I wouldn't oversleep the show. Fed the stray cats. Huh. Yeah, what I did was I spotted the crescent Foxadre, and then I came right inside, but it was a little bit later. It was a little bit later than right after sundown. So I was kind of looking where it was, and where I saw it had kind of just escaped just outside, and it certainly wasn't in the lion with my Stellarium. And so I'm figuring, okay, if this was 15 minutes earlier that I was looking at it when it was the proper sunset, it would have been in the claw of the crab. The second rising. Yeah, so I'll say I've been up for over an hour now, and this is my first. The first cigarette of me arising. Matter of fact, it's the 4th cigarette of my day, and I've been up since 11 o'clock in the morning. Well, thank you, Ellie. Thank you very much. That touches me, because that's what I would like. That's what I aim to do. That is, and telestai. That's what I aim to do. And I know I can only do what I can to try and create that. Just like when I play music, I try to, for people to have a good time, enjoy what they hear, and things like that. Well, I've been kind of preoccupied with a lot of things. Foxadre. I'm gonna email JLL. He's kind of, he's kind of used to me. Every month, this will be probably the latest I've ever emailed him. I'll take a guess because I'm not worried about being wrong. So the one time I was incorrect was when Tara and Budevi were having that second shift. So I thought it had gone into Indris. And he said, nope, second shift. And so the next time I said, okay, are we in Bagalamukhi, as I asked him? That was last new moon. And he said, yes, lots of people are feeling it. We call her Indris. Oh, okay. So I'm kind of, I'll wait for confirmation. So I'll probably next week's Can't You Hear Me Gnostic, when we're a little bit deeper into this, into the lunar cycle. But it seems to me we're in a crab, and we're in, I think it's Vajra Yogini. And also when I did see the crescent, like the very first time I went out was the first shift for Tara and Bhudevi. And I remember that the moon insisted, the crescent moon insisted on me seeing two crescents with a common apex. And I shared that with John. And I said it was kind of like the moon was telling me that there was two of something there. And he said, "Oh, that's good." And then the next month, kind of the same effect. I saw the Bagala. I saw Indra's new moon arise at the music when Uncle Butchie was playing at my friend's property, and the sky was so dark and beautiful there. I really saw it very well. And that one just enraptured me. That one paralyzed me. I remember I looked at it. I kind of started looking at it. I was talking to a friend of mine. I said, "Oh, let me do this for a moment." And I just left him standing next to me for minutes, because I just kind of got enthralled. But in a way, it was almost like, she's also known as the paralyzer. So in a certain way, I just kind of, once I looked up there, it was just, that's all I could do. So I espied the crescent moon last night, finally. The last 2 nights I went out there at sunset, and I could not see it. So I finally caught it last night. Just as it was setting below the tree, I almost couldn't quite see it. And the thing that struck me the most about the moon was how much it looked like a sow's tusk. Or like kind of like a canine's incisor. It really came across as kind of tusky incisor-ish. I shouldn't say incisor. I should actually, I think, say bicuspid. A bicuspid is what we, at least in humans, mistakenly call canine tooth. And what I found, I've been following this. This is just for Fox Adre and other Gnostic, people who want to follow the at least the Celestic part of planetary tantra. And I went to a Celestic page, which I had never quite noticed on Metahistory before. And I listened to the recordings he has. He usually does about an hour on those recordings. Because he aims for, I guess he aims for 40 minutes and then manages to get to do an hour. And but there was a couple that were there, and when I went to them, they said link doesn't work. But really, Celestics is just fascinating, and the amount. It's really, Metahistory is really kind of quite deceptive, and how deep it goes. Because you get to the front page. And he, has Sky Lore and Lydia as well, and all the different categories. Hello, Deborah Rubenfeld. Oh, thank you, Deborah. Yeah, if I had the stomach to click around on Facebook, I would. I can't stand Facebook. I can't stand the look of the software. But thank you. Who knows? But that's great. The super. So, but again, occasionally, I have to check Facebook once a day because I get messages. Just they have that little messenger service. So occasionally I have messages, so I don't want to fall behind. But as far as clicking around and doing stuff, I have to have like a friend of mine who posted something, so I'll go and give it a like or a heart or something like that. So next time I'm on, I'm going to type in the Super Learning event page. And thank you. And the crab. So yeah, the crescent moon really looked, because the way it was sitting, and it just looked like the bottom tusks of a mouth kind of coming up and sticking up. And I've looked at this, the crescent moon, has a little different angle, but boy, this one was like screaming, like kind of canine tooth, tusk, whatever. Same to you, Rufus. It's a beautiful night here in, I guess I'll call it kind of the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains in southwest Virginia. And it was in the 80s today, mid 80s. I walked into town. All I had to do was put a signature and a date on the lease. They drew up a new lease for me as a sole occupant. So I walked up there, and then I walked down. From there, I walked down to the health food store. Got some nice organic cherries, bananas, and got one other thing. What was it? Who cares? Who cares? Nobody needs to hear my shopping list. And then I walked back. But when I got back, coming back from the health food stores up a hill for a little while, and when I got back into the house, well, I had a good nice little sweat going. So it was kind of nice to take off all my clothes. The other thing, now that I have my house to myself, I can walk around naked, and on hot summer days, walking around naked is a nice way to stay cool. Yes, it's so appreciated, Deborah. Especially, again, you gave us, that's a very concise but short, just really great. Thank you. As you can see, all the Gnostics here really appreciate it. Or all the planetary Tantra people, the Teleste, the Rome. And for those who might not know, they might know the word anthropos, which is another name for the human animal, the human species. Kind of, to me, the correct name, because it, like global warming is called anthropic global warming. But the Coptic word and the Nag Hammadi texts were written in Coptic. Their word for the anthropos was Rome, and we'll spell it R-H-O-M-E. Rufus, you keep on bringing up the wrench. I have to admit, somebody who wants a wrench so bad is a kind of not a good signal. Because what's a wrench besides responsibility? And there's plenty of wrenches here. Wrenches is not so much. I don't get it. I'm not sure why you keep on mentioning wrench. You've mentioned it 3 times since the beginning of the stream. Wow, 102, huh? Well, that's kind of proper for Texas right now. I checked right at the beginning of the stream, and it was 74 degrees here with a beautiful breeze. I was outside. It was like, as soon as I stepped outside, it was like, oh, this is so yummy. I mean, it was kind of like getting a tongue bath from the breeze. It was delicious. Oh, he is? Thank you, Nish, for helping Anaspy out through the maze of the normies. Hello, Blue Blood. Jam. Hello, Kalendal. Well, you can do that on your live streams, Kalendal. If you say showing up consistently deserves a wrench, then that's exactly what you should practice on your live streams. Yeah, I didn't realize it. So you have to realize, Rufus, Sarcasm in chat, unless you actually kind of like go, sarcasm, doesn't work. There's no tonal inflections. There's no facial expressions. Yeah, you know, chat is clunky. 20%, basically 20% of what we're trying to convey that we can normally convey when we have tonal inflections and you know, facial expressions. Only about 20% really gets conveyed. So I'm glad that Niche helped me out, and I'm glad you helped me out by, you know, saying I'm being sarcastic, Rad. So I did I did a live stream. I think it was Friday night. I'm going to kind of call, you know, they're my mystic muse, but in many ways they're kind of like, you know, Weber presents. And you know, it's interesting to, you know, because it's a different theme. And they don't. There's no way that they get the same kind of views. This so far has been the one that does well. It does, you know, it has a nice, what I consider a good gathering during the live stream. I'm not, you know, to me there's a difference between it being almost empty and then just having a nice gathering. To me, this is, you know, 20 people. That's a nice little gathering of people. I'm quite happy with that. One time we got close to 30, and I mean, of course, you know, that's fun too, but it's not, it doesn't matter. It's the quality. It really is. It's the quality of the exchanges we have and the information we share with each other. And that's really what matters. And even with, you know, and even with you know, the views, it seems like my average one of my streams in the course of a week will, you know, get to around 200 views. I'm now one person shy of 1,100 subscribers after 3.5 years actually. My very first video went up January 20th, 2015. The name of that video was Paradigm Disruption, Gaia Sophia is Our God. And so you know, here we are at the beginning of July. So I think, you know, that's 3.5 years. But I've gotten a lot of good feedback about pursuing that you know, we'll call it the stream of thought, about the alternative chronology, and how that disconnects us from our ancestors' accomplishments, how long or not so long that was. Okay, I'm gonna have to leave the chat again. Hey Rufus, man, you're a brother. It's, as long as we're communicating, it's good. You know, as long as we're, especially, you know, again, if you're apologizing, apology accepted, but you didn't need to apologize. I love you, brother. Okay, that cigarette went out. We'll light it up a little bit later. Oh, hey, I walk. Welcome. I know that this, you know, I guess it's like 2:30 a.m. for you where you are. So, although that's, you know, to me that's almost prime time for me. As far as, you know, late at night, and it's all good. It's all good. Hey, Raksha. That's, you know, as long when we're all communicating and you know, and just making sure that we just want, you know, we want, you know, we want to be able to communicate with each other. So All good, brother. So I've gotten I got good feedback the very first time I kind of did it, and then when I did my Friday live stream was kind of a mixed bag, and it was, I was talking about music. Weber Speakers was having a hemp cone sale, 10% off, and I told my contact at Weber Speakers, I intend to promote you. That's what I like to do. And who knows, maybe in the future at some point I'll actually be able to afford to buy myself a new speaker, because I would like to. I have a few speakers I have my eyes on. And then maybe they'll be able to construct a special ModWiz sale for me. But if they don't, they don't. I would, it's not like, oh, if you don't get me a break, that's the last time I'm going to promote you. I mean, they're great. They are the best speakers, in my opinion. And the fact that you can pick hemp or paper, because solid people might say, oh, hey, I like paper over hemp, then good. That's what most Weber speakers are. Anything they offer in hemp, they do offer in traditional paper cones. Not everything they offer in paper cones do they also offer in hemp cones. And the 8-inch, they finally came out with 8-inch web cone speakers, but they are the ones that break up early. If you're somebody who likes an early speaker breakup, they're good. But I have to admit, I wouldn't mind trying they have, one has got a 1-inch voice coil, so it has less power handling. It might break up even earlier. And then they have one with an 1.25 inch voice coil and and the difference is one is an 8-ounce Alnico magnet, because I like Alnico, and the other one's 11 ounce. And I have two of the big Alnico magnet speakers, my 12 and my 10-inch speaker, and I have the 8-inch paper speaker because I bought it years ago, and that has the 8-ounce, but I don't have the 11 ounce, and each one of them has a unique tonal spectrum to them. So I really would like to have one of their 11-ounce 1.25 inch voice coil speakers. I'm currently not following the chat. I guess I can get in there, but in my last stream on Friday, the Mystic Muse stream, I did mention about going forward, talking a little bit about subscriptions, but not Patreon. Absolutely not Patreon. And also about not doing what seems to be the thing is, everybody gets the first hour, but only subscribers get a second hour. No. I'll go. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail because tonight I'm in a very mellow mood. Conversational, but mellow. I'm kind of expanding and enjoying the peace and the blessing. Our planetary animal mother and a few other of her daughters with agencies certainly heard my desire for peace, and they have created it for me. I mean, I'm not gonna rule myself out in it, but we one of the things I guess about a lot of the New Age concepts of creation is they're not coming from a planetary tantra or what I would consider a Gnostic perspective of we live in a rich environment across both the physical and the non-physical, and it's all about teamwork, showing respect to each other, showing love to each other, especially showing love where love is shown. I show quite a bit of love, and the right kind of respect. One of the things I'm certainly learning about the our mother and her, let's call it her daughters, and yeah, more of her daughters, the Dakinis and Hecate. There's kind of like I guess a little friendly formality, but man, they really don't like. They certainly don't like it if you try to be holy with them. Oh man, that actually bugs them. It's like you're bringing poison from the the archontic systems in here. We this isn't about kissing ass and hoping you get favor. That is the other system. This system is a lot like an ideal human community. A human community that's real. And a human community that's real will have ebbs, flows. It'll have hot spots, cool spots, but it all happens within a dialogue. Communication is everything. But I did get very good feedback as a concept when I did one about alternative chronology, or when I threw it out about doing a weekly live stream about that. I've had people, like somebody saw me in a live chat and said, "Rad, I really like that idea about the alternative chronology." I've shared a few videos with people who I correspond with almost daily, and they are telling me, "Ooh, I mean, I wasn't sure where you're going with this, but now that I'm watching some of the stuff that has been, that other people are pointing out with great precision, there's something here." And that's what it is. It kind of cracks open a door to our ancestors and the past when we were free. And what the false chronology seems to do is they're trying to create thousands of years between where we are now and where we had agency and freedom on the planet. And it's starting to look like that is not the case. And that 300 years ago, this planet was a lot different. But that'll be for that. That's not this conversation. So I'm looking forward to doing those. I think those are going to become popular live streams. And those are ones I'm going to have to do a little research on, and I'm going to always have fresh, some fresh videos. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll pick videos and then kind of, carry on about like that. We might talk about the real samurai of Japan, the difference between artistic renditions of the samurai, who they were, what they looked like, and then the actual pictures of samurai, and they're different. One of the major differences, the samurai look a lot European in their pictures. And anybody who watches, some of the things about the different finds all over the world, whether it's giants, megaliths, and things like that, and just the general disinterest of both archaeology and science. Like, hey, this should be interesting, and they just, and it's because they what's there. The Patrix does not want revealed. And so there really is both cover up, and then of course the cover up of ignorance, and also when a lot of times these ruins get found, and if they are known ruins, they go in and they do reconstructions, and that alters what you can see from the remains. And some of the remains of these places really look like, everybody always says, earthquakes. When you see all, what created, why are these multi-ton things on the ground? Oh, earthquakes. I don't know about earthquakes, tossing 10, 20, 50-ton boulders and works of art, hundreds of feet, 50 feet. It looks like whatever created ruins did so in a very, let's just say, explosive fashion, as opposed to a trembling fashion. Okay, let me join the live chat, see what's going on in there. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad, because when Max goes in, when Max Egan, Matt Finger's referring to Max Egan, he, when he kind of gets off what, what he basically says is, people wake up, walk away from the system, and if we all do this together, the system falls. And he's absolutely correct. But again, he's been saying that for years and years, and he acknowledges that. So when he gets into examining the alternative chronology, or the fictional chronology, it's refreshing from somebody who's listened to a lot of Max Egan. And what I like, kind of what I would call, from a musical standpoint, riffing off the work of New Earth and Sylvia Ivanova. Because you're kind of taking the work that she's done, and she's now, produced a lot of videos of on site. She's gone there with cameras, and so we can take a look at what she's talking about. But then he turns it into his own language and his own perspective. So multiple ways of looking at the same material with different people expressing it, and also, their own, the way they see holes in the storyline is really is expansive. There we go. We're back into expansion. And we have the Lords who say niche. That was good, Mad Finger. So I have to go. Oh, I just caught what you said. I never changed my. Okay. So I got a couple of people. So I'm going to address Fox Adre, saying that that you present the title as live stream as such because, JLL is into immersion, not ascension or salvation. Yeah. Well, especially as salvation. Salvation is, when you hear salvation, run. Go hide until they go away. And ascension, yeah, ascension is a goofy concept if you're not doing the work. And then even if you're doing the work, what are you experiencing? Are you really experiencing ascension? And you might, because that might be how your personality puts the perspective. But whatever's going on, which is certainly a form of growth, and there's more coming in. But speaking to my favorite shaman, Rock Shamus, we are experiencing expansion. That is definitely the word of what it feels like is going on. Not just with us, with what's in the dreaming. And so within the dreaming, it seems like there's a nice organic expansion, and then out of the dreaming, looking into the world, that expansion looks like heads exploding. And then Christopher, never change your speakers and your amps. One of the things, I don't know if you saw my my Mystic Muse, but when it kind of comes to tone, there's really, there can be more than this, but the simplest form is the tone that comes out from your guitar, through your guitar cord. So that's like kind of the first tone. That's, how you hold your strings, the kind of pickups you have, how you strum your pick attack. So in other words, there is the tone created in the playing of the guitar, which creates a signal pick that goes through the pickups and then goes to your amp. So then there's the kind of amp you have, the kind of tone stack the amp use, how you use the controls of those tone stacks that then will add another dimension to your tone. But when all is said and done, between how you send the tone to your amp, what the amp will do to that signal, the final voice on all of that is our speakers. And so for me, and I discovered that until I had a speaker that was articulate enough, and only Weber because of the way they build them, the hand making is actually articulate. Some of the other big speaker makers like Celestion, and Celestion would be like kind of like English, and then Celestion would be English, and then Eminence would be kind of America. I think Eminence is in Kentucky. And I had some good Eminence speakers, but it wasn't until I put a Weber speaker in that I could actually hear myself play in every nuance. And it was through Weber speakers that I was able to hear little, I don't know, like muted strings or just little things that I could not hear in the other speakers. Weber allowed me to hear what I was actually really putting into my own signal from my guitar. It really let me hear the tone of my amp, but mostly it let me hear the tone of what I was playing, the original signal being sent out. So I was able to clean up my playing, and it was little things. It's almost like if you wipe down a table and you get but you see there's still just a little bit of dust here, and maybe a flake of tobacco here, and whatever, and things that you could not hear, the equivalent, from going from sight to hearing, that couldn't really be picked up. There was something inherently mushy about other speakers, and the real term for Weber speakers is articulation. You can really hear what's happening, and that allows you to just really clean up the tone. And then it's just, you can hear what you're playing, and even when I use like dark matter and some distortion, there's still the articulation. It doesn't, you can, even though the distortion tends to put it all into like one big sound, because the distortion kind of blends the notes, you can still hear the distinction. They're just incredible speakers. So for anybody who might, even if you think your tone is set, and if you have a small amp and you can do an 8-inch speaker, even though the 8-inch speakers don't have the bottom end, they still have amazing tone and richness. I mean, even though they have, they don't have as much bass response, the richness. And then to me, here's a term that I've seen, I think, used by Eminence, where they say that their speakers are rich in harmonics. And they certainly are. They're so rich in harmonics, you could almost say it's overabundance. Where Weber speakers have the overtones and harmonics that you want, but none of the ones you don't want. And that's what I find. I find that kind of the factory-made speakers are rich in harmonics. They're so rich you don't hear the harmonics you really want to play. There's just so many. Weber speakers they have the right harmonics, not rich in harmonics. They're abundant, but not rich, which a lot of times can be overabundant. I used to say, in other words, the way they're describing that their speakers, not Weber, the other ones, are rich in harmonics, it's like somebody who has extra weight saying they're rich in adipose tissue. Thank you, Pyramid 7. Because I had to go back, and then now I'm coming back into real time, little by little. Yeah, Deborah, I saw that. I watched that Max Egan one 2 nights ago, and I shared it with some friends of mine, and the picture that struck me the most there was a picture of a samurai on a horse, and with the big bristling beard coming, he was in full samurai, you know, armor. So there wasn't a lot to be seen, but the beard, the beard coming out of from underneath the helmet was pretty darn European kind of bushy, not the kind of long wispy ones that we kind of would normally think that a Japanese person might have. But more interestingly was the person holding his horse. And that was the other thing is, so the person holding the horse would be, I guess, maybe the equivalent in England in the peerage system of a squire. Okay, so you have a knight and a squire. And, the squire is of a humbler hierarchical position than the knight in those systems. So you're looking at the knight, who's a samurai, and you're going, he looks pretty European. And then you look at the squire holding the horse, and you're going, gee, he looks kind of Indonesian. Because even though if you look at, people in Indonesia, they'll have a certain, they look like they belong in the Southeast Asia part, but there's something a little browner and just a little, there's just something about the topology of their skull, their facial bones, their nose bridge that is different than, let's say, how we would normally see like a Vietnamese person, a Korean person, a Chinese person, or a Japanese person, and in this case, modern. And those pictures are from the 1800s. So, I mean, whatever has happened on this planet has happened in the course, I would say, the real onslaught, the real shutting down has happened, I would say, within the past 200 to 300 years. And I've shared this with one other person. I won't identify who it is. But I kind of want to know what allowed that? The parasites have been around for some time now. What really kind of let them really do the smackdown on the original people? And my answer I got was guns. According to history, so I'm kind of putting it in those terms. The Chinese invented gunpowder, but they didn't. They used gunpowder for fireworks. That's the people who invented gunpowder, according to history, used gunpowder for fireworks. And then when knowledge of gunpowder came to Europe, they were the ones who construed. Oh, we can put this gunpowder at one end of a tube, put a lead ball at the other, behind or in front of that gunpowder, light the gunpowder, and send that lead ball forward with really deadly force. And, but my sense is that the musket was still a little bit crude, especially when you had the early ones. You actually had to have like a candle or a smoldering stick to get the fuse lit, when you actually had to light a fuse, almost like fireworks. But when they started coming up with ammunition that even if you had to load one at a time, but you could discharge, put another, get the casing out, put another one in. So basically, let's figure getting a round off every 5 to 10 seconds. I think that's when the parasitic armies started decimating whole populations. And it went unseen because, there were no reporters on the scene. And if they were there, maybe they got shot. So I have a feeling that the invention of the gun is when the parasites were able to really go, because I know the samurai knew about the gun, and they consider it cowardly and there was no honor in that. And this was men having arguments with each other. Let's go out and have a real fight about this. And the gun was just they were disgusted by everything the gun stood for. But if you don't have honor, then the gun will appeal to, and the parasites have never had honor. So that's I have to do more journeying on that, and because it seems like so far that piece of information has come from inner work. I haven't gotten that piece from outside. All right, let me see what's going on in here. Christopher Biden, one of the things that Weber makes besides speakers is they make amp kits of of classic amps, certain classic Fender amps, some Vox amps. So it's really nice. So you can and they give you what the kind of the little boards that allow you to connect all the capacitors and resistors together. But if you feel with these same kits, they show you how to wire together. So if you feel like doing what's that called? Point to point, where you don't use a board, that's always an option. But they're really awesome kits. A Fender 60-watt tube amp sounds like a DeVille, a Hot Rod DeVille, because the Hot Rod Deluxes are 40 watts. If I recall the 60-watt Fender amp, at least the modern ones are the DeVilles. Yeah, I heard that talk, Fox and Dre, and I really liked it because, I mean, in many ways, well, like what I kind of got about the gun was, a shamanic trance practice where you want some information, but it's not, and I say shamanic rather than shaman per se, because, the upper, lower worlds, there's ways to travel that, that can be just for the information. And to me, it's about getting in touch with Sophia, letting her know you want to know something, that you're pondering it, and you sit there and you stay at it and you're thinking, and then all of a sudden, boop, something pops in, and it pops in, and it's like it comes in like an explosion where like you're feeling stuck, and then this thing comes in, and all of a sudden it's like somebody opened up. There's a breach in the intellectual stuckness here. Yay! And I'm glad that that John's been speaking more about the shamanic aspect of planetary tantra and being Gnostic, and that it's occasionally and I like to presence it at the core. At the core of Gnostic practice, planetary tantra practice, animism. Everything is alive, because everything that we perceive, especially when you enter the dreaming, boy, do things come alive. And by the way, there's I think a really good video that was put out. I'm pretty sure it's on Randy Maugan's Half Off Planet Radio, where Emily Moyer and our own friend Nish here have a conversation, and it was good. It was good, really good conversation, really good dialogue. Raksha is helping enormously with kind of expanding my my use of the word expansion. I'm reading the chat for a moment, getting myself caught up. That's well said, Christopher. The work never ends, because the inner work is kind of like cleaning a closet, a room. We call it hygiene. And hygiene doesn't end. I mean, just because you take a shower, does that mean no more showers because you took a shower? I'm clean now. I don't need to take any more showers because I am clean now. And our inner work is kind of like that. Kind of. It's not a perfect metaphor, but it requires maintenance. Because, you get clear, and then you go out and you mix it up, and then you come back, you go out and socialize. You share, and sometimes the cleaning up isn't about stuff that people laid on you. It's that you might have expressed yourself in a way that was inelegant, and in the future you'd like to be a little more graceful. But it reveals itself, and then and part of inner work is having a partner. Not for all of it, but it's it's somebody who can see your back. In case, in your social interaction, somebody put one of those funny notes on your back, kick me or something like that. And you look at yourself, you go, oh, I look pretty clear. And then you find somebody that you feel comfortable with doing that work with, and they go, yeah, you're pretty clean except for that kick me sticker on your back. You might want to take that off. And so to me, the majority of inner work is for us to do. It's like kind of like, we take our own showers, but every once in a while you got to ask somebody, hey, can I hand you the face cloth and you wash my back? Oh, an old Fender Bassman tube amp. Those are good guitar amps. And as much as I'd like to bet, I had a super reverb, and it got lost in some fuckery. That was a nice amp. The super reverb 410s, 40 watts. That was a sweet amp. What the heck? Boy, the chat's being a little goofy tonight. Good night, I walk. Oh, it's Madfinger said that. Yeah, that's a really nice sound, and but I have to admit, that's an amp I might consider building, but I want to build like some small 15 watt amp. I want to build a small 15 watt amp that uses a tube tremolo. I like tremolo tremolo can be a really incredible effect. Well, Mythophrenikus, you certainly, if you're the same Mythophrenikus, it looks to me like you've added a bit more to your name. You used to be Mythophrenikus demiurgicus or something like that. Now it's Mythophrenikus the Kekistani Satar of Mantique. Oh, you used the word Mantique. I like that. I probably should have said this while I Walk is here. Maybe he's still here. He does have a YouTube, and he's been putting out some really inspired music lately, and it's, you know, it's him playing guitar and singing some words, and it's really, it'll take you places. It's kind of, I would call the sound like it kind of creates a landscape. Really good stuff. So check out I Walk and videos he's put out in the last couple of weeks, and give his music a listen. And, you know, it's a kind of, you know, 3 to 5 minute investment of time, and I think it would be time well spent. Thank you, Ellie. I do have a fairly good memory, which is pretty good for 65, eh? I do not, I have to admit, you know, at 65 years of age, I'm not really experiencing much in the way of physical degradation. I've just gotten a little, you know, I need the reading glasses things, and it's probably something I might be able to do that. Maybe I just need to drink more carrot juice. But even like when I was walking today and whatever, it's I feel great. I really feel great. You know, like somebody goes, oh, you know, they might be coming out with these, you know, these chambers where you can go in and become 15 years younger. It's like, I don't feel really any different than I did 15 years ago, other than I've sat around a little bit and gotten, you know, to me, if there's any part of my physical experience that feels like it's downgraded, it's because I haven't kept up with my physical activity. Anybody who kind of, you know, backs off on their physical activity becomes less robust. I feel if I kick up my physical activity, I can be as robust as I was 20 years ago. And you know, some people say, well, maybe you'd like to have brown hair again. I think it would look good, but let me tell you, I'd rather not have to beat off the women like I used to when I was in my 40s. And I'm, you know, it may say, oh, you sound like you're, you know, it sounds ego. Well, I'm just sharing the reality. So I kind of like that I get left alone. I can go to parties and I can just be. If I had my brown hair back, I just have a feeling I would get offers I wouldn't know how to refuse. Oh, I know all about C60. I have people trying to, you know, talk me into it. First of all, I'm finding hemp paste the most amazing thing. I've been doing hemp paste, not hemp oil, because I want the whole plant. I want everything, the terpenes and everything. I don't want any isolates. And it's been amazing. It has been incredible. I had kind of a recurring pain that would happen along my left big toe on the outside. That was the pancreas spleen meridian. And if I worked on my pancreas and my spleen meridian, if I tapped it, I could feel it was kind of tender. So, and they were kind of jitsu. So I would kind of, you know, get the extra energy out, and that would, if I kept up with that every day, my toe would be fine. And thank you, Ellie. But since I've started doing the hemp paste, that I don't have to now. I don't have to work that meridian anymore. And it's like whatever I needed, whatever was what I actually had to attend to with my own energy and tissue manipulation, which is part of working with meridians. That's not orthodox shiatsu, but because I came first from tissue manipulation before I started being able to feel what's going on in meridians. And then I went, wait a second, the tissue and the energy in the meridians play together. And it's kind of, sometimes you would go into meridian that was struggling in one way or another, and then you would find the tissue that the meridian was traveling in was a little bit toughened. maybe dehydrated. And the interesting thing, even if you are a little dehydrated, when you move tissue, it kind of picks up whatever moisture's there. Think of like a sponge. When it's really, really dry, and if you put it in water, it might just float rather than absorb water. You might have to like actually move that sponge around to get it to pull the water in, and tissue can be very much like that. The CBD paste, Deborah, is 1/3 the price of CBD oil. Go to mynutra.com. I've been getting what they call the sample size because I can afford a sample size at a time. And depending on the dosage you use, it could last you from 5 days. My first one lasted me almost, I guess, 2 weeks. I've learned that I like a little bit more, but these are $20, and they don't. At least in America, there's no shipping. You pay $19.95, and that's what comes out of your credit or debit card, and it's just it's been incredible. It's been really, and it's not pricey. Where like if I went to the health food store where I first found it, so there's $20, and then if you buy the 1 ounce CBD oils, those are like $90, $100. So that was the other thing. The CBD paste has a more complete entourage, and represents the whole plant. And because of it, you're not purifying and distilling it and whatever. It doesn't cost as much to produce, so the savings gets passed on to us. So I really feel that hemp, for most cases, like just for general well-being, the hemp paste is a superior product, and it's 1/3 the price. And like I said, at first I thought, okay, they say it's it's $20, $19.95. But what's shipping? Because sometimes you buy something and then the shipping, almost like if it was $10 shipping, then it would be $30, and it'd behoove me to pay $26 and get it at my local health food store, and then they charge you $1 tax, so the whole thing ends up costing some 27 and change. But no, when you order it from them, at least when I've ordered from them, and then on July 4th, for 3 days they had a July 4th sale: buy 3 get 1 free. So I bought 3 and they sent me 4. And I'm glad I did that, because I did that just before I got my news that I was going to have to come up with $400 more a month. So at least I got that handled. Because that would, to buy 3 at a time so I could get 4. But it was great. It really was. And they also make, same price, for the same size, they also make one for dogs, and especially purebred dogs, because purebred dogs are a little more fragile than mutts. I would think that if you have a purebred dog and the normal fragility, I think that using the hemp paste with a dog would really help them also. Yes, a mini dachshund. I mean, once again, and especially the smaller dogs, because you're figuring dogs seem to descend from wolves. So when you start looking, when they've taken the genetics and taken some that was once the size of a wolf and now it's 1/4 the size of a wolf, you have to wonder if that isn't a little rough on their genetics. Oh, okay, Deborah. And again, the problem, with purebreds, again, a lot of times they're looking for the champion, so dogs end up having kind of some of the issues the Royals have experienced by breeding close. Ah. Yeah, most of the mastiffs I've met are pretty good tempered. The hell dog seems to be. I mean, again, there's exceptions to every rule, but I remember a friend of mine had 4 Rottweilers. I remember I visited him one time, and he had them kind of like in the garage with a like a a regular chain link fence. These 4 dogs were climbing the fence. They wanted to come out and tear me apart. It was like something out of a horror movie. Like these dogs snarling and growling and climbing, using their claws to climb up a fence, trying to get. It was like, holy cow. But then I had another friend of mine who had a Rottweiler, was the sweetest thing. But the people who owned the Rottweiler were sweet. Where my friend was he was into taekwondo and having big muscles, and if you said the wrong thing, he'd kind of give you that look, even if you were his friend, and go, "We don't have to fight now, do we?" So I can see why his dogs had issues. Because dogs are psychic sponges for us. Which is why if you are, let's say, a shaman kind of person, and you take on some of, if somebody comes to you, and part of it is to help them process that, and minimally you take on, just because you have to hear people, you have to totally get in there, you have to empathize, pull some of that in, and then companion dogs to people who will work with other people and take on some of their pain. The dogs are kind of the shaman's shaman, so they can really take a beating. Bacon. Oh, that's interesting. That makes sense. I love the flavor. I actually, sometimes at night, I take my dose, and after it's dissolved, I go, I want a little more. Not sorry because I want more dose, because I enjoyed the flavor so much. I like. It's almost like I want another piece of chocolate. And they do sell chocolate bars with, I guess, like almost a full dosage that's in one of these things. I think it's half of it, like the 5 or a weekday supply, or however how long you want to make it last. In the 200 milligrams has 200, it's 200 milligrams of hemp, and then their chocolate bars have 100 milligrams in them. But they're being very cautious because it's hot out. And so sometimes people order the chocolate bars, and instead of getting a chocolate bar, they get a chocolate puddle. And so they go, until it cools down, or if we'll give it to you, but you have to accept responsibility that if it comes to you in a puddle, that's because you ordered it during summer. They do offer these little ice packs they can ship them with, but you have to buy the ice packs. I was at the health food store, and I knew there was something I wanted to look at, and I forgot to see if they had gotten in their Choco Lover, which is an organic chocolate with organic cherries in it, and I forgot to check it. I said, what is it I really wanted to check and see to get here, and I just couldn't remember. But at least I got the real cherries, so that's good. From what I know of Rottweilers are a blend of Mastiff and Doberman Pinscher, if I remember my dog breeding correctly. When I was going to high school, getting my academic diploma, there was talk in my household. Well, actually, the household had come down to myself and my mother. My father had left the house at 16, and that was a good thing. And then my sister ran away shortly thereafter to go join him. So it was just me and Mom, the two Aspies together. And there was talk about me becoming a veterinarian. And so I had done some cursory study on dog breeds. So I some of, and that's going back almost 50 years ago. But there's still, I do have a good memory. There's still a fair amount of retention. So I'm pretty sure Rottweilers are a blend of Mastiff and Doberman Pinscher. Wow, 210 pounds. I mean, when that dog weighs more than me. At 210 pounds, I'm a chubber. My face, you know, I got the highest weight I ever got up to was 217 pounds. I was drinking a lot of beer at the time. And I remember actually I was kind of coming from having a pitcher of beer. And I was walking by some storefronts. And I saw my guts. And a couple of times, in the past I've seen a little bit of gut. And I just sucked my gut in. And I realized I could no longer suck my gut in. There just wasn't enough inner body to pull in all the chub. I look... At 180, I still am robust, but my belly's flat. At 190, I'm really fit, but might just have it, just a little extra around. I'm currently, last time I weighed myself, I was like 152. But now that I have the kitchen to myself, I plan on eating a lot more. So I have a thing. There's a good chance I get up to 170 or so, and then if I work out, I could probably get up to 180. I could definitely get up to 160. I visited a friend of mine 2 years ago, stayed with her from just before Christmas till just after New Year's, and I got to eat like normal meals, and I gained 10 pounds in 10 days. And this is not exactly the most Gnostic-y, can't you hear me Gnostic, but again, it's the whole idea is to have conversations and knowing that, at least, I'm trying to keep it all within the dreaming and within the narrative. And so that allows, but the narrative is just kind of the gnosis of who we are, where we are. It allows us to look out and, to correctly assess the fuckery of the world. And I got my title about 10 minutes. I was out there feeding the cats. What's the title for tonight? And then I realized, expansion. And so expansion was the theme, and it really is a theme. But maybe to get a little Gnostic-y, let's see. Maybe I'll read just a tiny bit. Come on, complete yourself here. There we go. Maybe we'll read a little bit about the Dakini that's currently on shift. The Dakini calendar. Oh yeah, one of the things I was saying about meta history. So let's see. So like you go in there and you'll see Site Guide, Tantra Tour, Guy and Tantra Vows, Foundations, Shakti Cluster, Dakini Calendar, Terma, and Sierra de Libar. And so it looks like that's all there is. But then you open one of the pages and then there's like endless hyperlinks. Like there might be a paragraph and one hyperlink, a paragraph, two hyperlinks, and they all take you to deeper into the site that it isn't apparent. That the site is like almost endless in how much you can read. It's almost like the main categories will get you onto a page, but from any one page you can open up like 10 pages of rich material. John has done an amazing amount of work on meta history, and in his Gaiaspora, whereas a lot of Diaspora is about the interviews he's done and then the GNE talks he did. And I've been, like, some nights I just go into an old GNE talk and just, you know, listen to something I listened to, you know, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, in some cases 6 years ago, in some cases 7 years ago. And it's just kind of nice to go back there to see where we were then and where we are now. Gives a little perspective. Oh, there's a Dakini calendar. Okay. So the crab. So if those of you who were here, and a good portion of you were here when I kind of mentioned the tusk that the crescent moon looked like either the canine teeth of a dog or more correctly, the tusk of a boar. So in the crab we have a Vajra Yogini, and she also has a Vajra Varahi as a name, and that means the adamantine, or adamantine if you wish, sow, the adamantine sow. Adamantine basically refers to diamond. Like if you read in certain old books and they refer to adamantine, what they were saying is that what we know is diamond. So she's known as the boar-headed Dakini. Although in most of the imagery they do not show the boar head, they show her as a kind of a typical, you know, a certain amount of, you know, let's call them the Dakini babes. And using the word babes is borrowing a word from John himself. Actually, I'll read it to you. Here's kind of like the opening line. By now, some of you will be wondering, don't all these Tibetan babes look the same? Rather like exotic hookers milling around at a Club Med promotion? The same could be said for the Mahavidyas. Apart from the nitpicking iconographic details, they all look more or less alike. Both Dakinis and Mahavidyas are visual stereotypes of woman power, stock images of Shakti, the divine feminine. What, after all, is the value and relevance of these visualizations? So actually I'm going to read this because it'll help people who, before just going it. The Shakti cluster is an 18-gauge explosion of the divine feminine, no matter how you visualize it. The images of the Devatas, the Mahavidyas, and the Dakinis, there's 1 through 10 are the Mahavidyas, and Dakinis are 11 through 15. One sublime teacher, 16. Actually, it now turns out the 16 is where the Anthropos enters. A dangerous guardian, 17, and lucid identity node of Gaia Sophia herself, 18. And that's probably a good time for me to pull out the Shakti cluster to see what we're talking about. So let me just, I kind of go in here and see how my visual is doing. Okay, so there's my visual. I'm going to try and hold it static while I read. So I'm going to read what I just read. Let me get all the kind of reflection. I'm trying to get the reflection out of here. It's one of the problems with laminated stuff. Oh, come on, come on. You might just have to deal with the lamination because I'm pointing it at my computer screen. I'm getting a reflection. But I'm going to try to hold it here so you can kind of see it. And I'm going to read the same thing I just read. So the Shakti cluster is an 18-gauge explosion of the divine feminine. This is a form of the Shakti cluster here. And so when he's saying the Mahavidyas 1 through 10, and where I gotta put on my glasses. So 1 through 10 is the outer part. I gotta get back on my camera to make sure you guys can see what I'm doing. The outer part is 1 through 10. Okay. And then you have that inner image, and then you have the Dakinis of 1 through 15. One sublime teacher, and I have to realize some of the a lot of this stuff was written years ago, and John has unpacked more, and he gets clarity. And he said in his talks, he's very clear. You know, at one point I said this, and it's more has come through. And so the sublime teacher, there's 16 right there. That's it. And on this, which is a form, this is an app, so to speak. And this is where we, the Anthropos, enter at 16. Okay, he refers to a dangerous guardian, 17. That's up here in this open space. And she's the guardian, because you can see this is where things open up. This is almost like an egg. There's like kind of like a flower within the middle. And so this is the opening, and 17 is the guardian of all there. By the way, 1 right at the mouth, that's Kali Ma there. And then our mother, Pam, is right there. That's the Gaia Sophia spot. So, so that's the lucid identity node of Gaia Sophia herself, derived from received material, the goddess lore of Hindu and Tibetan sources. They could be described as 18 channels of energy without reference to visual details of any kind, even the visualization of a female form. These stereotypes come from the past, but the Shakti cluster is not a product of the past. It cannot be traced from the past forward through certain preconfigurations, though certain prefigurations of it can be found in the past. The Shakti cluster is totally current, immediate, now. Some precedents in Indian and Tibetan religion point ahead to its current manifestation, one could say, but the cluster is essentially novel, unique to this moment in historical time. I suggested an introductory essay for Planetary Tantra that the visual images for the cluster are like hostesses dressed in a standard costume who welcome participants to a convention. The Shakti cluster hostesses wear 2 kinds of attire: the Hindu kitsch costume with sari and jewels for the Mahavidyas, and the naked dakini with the 5 skull crown, flaying blade, and skull cup filled with blood or brains, ear and neck ornaments, necklace of severed heads, and a waist girdle of bones. I use these images to introduce the Shakti cluster, but I do not insist in retaining them. Okay, so I think that was kind of like, so now we can kind of get on to her herself. The boar motif refers to direct experience of the diamond light. So there's that, you know, there's that adamantine part. The boar motif refers to direct experience of the diamond light, and the mother sow motif refers to the experience of the organic light. And then he says, as far as I can tell. That at least is my best guess for the derivation of these terms. The boar shown emerging from the right ear of Vajrayogini may also allude to a peculiar sound heard when in deep immersion with the primordial light. A boring, no pun intended, or odd gurgling and tunneling effect, which a psychonaut friend of mine described as happening when you get right down into her exhaust pipes. Each of the 5 diamond sky dakinis surrounding Vivi correlates to a sense faculty. Vajrayogini to the sense of hearing. As for the mother sow imagery, it recalls the Gnostic effigy of Diana of Ephesius, and since I can, I'm going to allow us to see what that looks like. And so if you kind of are looking at that, what you're seeing, what looks like necklaces, are in fact what really represent multiple breasts. But I'll continue reading. I can't read too. Now, take a good look at that, because in a minute, as I finish up this text, the picture will disappear because you're seeing what I'm seeing. So, as for the sow imagery, it recalls the Gnostic effigy of Diana of Ephesus. And this is that effigy that it's referring to. As noted in Gnostic Gallery 2, pictorial and statuary representations of organic light are extremely rare, but this one is unmistakable. It must be derived from direct experience upon contemplating the organic light, One often feels like one is suckling on milky teats. Okay, we're going to lose a little bit of it. The luminosity spirals towards you in immense pearly vortices or majestically swirling cones that recall seashells, but also bulging breasts. You can actually taste the organic light on your lips. This is not solely my impression, but one that has been reported by other psychonauts of my acquaintance. So I'm going to kind of skip ahead. Now, he quotes a lot from a woman who wrote about this. I don't want to read everything. Miranda Shaw is the name of the author, and her book is Buddhist Goddesses of India. So this is Shaw says of Vajrayogini, her dance is total freedom. To behold directly the medium in which the universe is mirrored is the freedom of enlightenment. But this diamond sky Dakini does not merely hold attention to that state. She also reaches into the unenlightened state and taps human passion in ways more immediate and more excruciatingly intimate than any other Devata. It is commonly said of Vajrayogini that her essence is great passion. Great passion denotes a rarefied, transcendent passion or divine passion, free from self-referentiality or selfish and harmful expression. Having transcended selfishness and illusion, she can tap her passion in its sacred purity and direct it to the liberation of others. Her cosmic lust and passion has a compassionate dimension, for freed from grasping, it becomes a force of expansion and communication. It simultaneously nurtures the welfare of being and blazes to destroy the neurotic tendencies of ego. Quoting Chogyam Trungpa, the one Tibetan master whose style and message most clearly prefigured Kala Tantra. So I'm going to read, anything is game for Vajrayogini's act of release. In keeping with her wholeness of being, Vajrayogini has every emotional modality at her command and can employ them at will. I will just break up here. Just remember, her shift is when the moon rises in the sign of the crab. So that's the constellation of the crab, not the sign. The constellation of the crab kind of corresponds to the zodiacal Cancer. If you know anything about cancers, the sign Cancer, you know that it's a mothering thing. So there's the sow aspect, and it can be, it's moon. So there's a lot of emotional. The crab, the constellation of the crab, at least in the zodiac, is ruled by the moon. So here you have the Dakini is identified by where the moon is, and now it's in the sign that is associated with the moon. So that's where we say Vajrayogini has every emotional modality at her command and can employ them at will. And that so now you see some of the tie-in with that crab energy there. Most deities have only one prominent facial expression, but Vajrayogini's countenance requires a complex range of emotions. Her facial expression may be described as blissful, erotically enraptured, intensely wrathful, or she may exhibit a blend of moods. She is imbued with a mixture of wrath and passion, in the fullness of bliss, laughing and baring her fangs. Even in a beatific mood, however, she is generally shown with sharp incisors, alluding to her ferocity and the omnivorous quality of the tantric path, which requires that one confront and transform, digest as it were, every experience that arises on the journey to enlightenment. And as I mentioned earlier, when I went out and saw the crescent moon, I never saw it look more like an incisor or a tusk. I mean, that was screaming that to me. It was like, see, this is, I mean, it just was like this tusk coming out of the darkness of the sky, just showing up there. Okay, so that's a little essence here. I'm going to come back into the live chat, see what's going on there. Put my face back on camera. And Okay. I have to backtrack a little bit, see what's going on. Oh, I'm always happy to see the tantrikas putting things in there. Okay. Yeah, released from pretending. Yeah. I like the whole thing about, you know, self-referentiality and the kind of ego destruction, or at least, where you use the ego as a tool instead of instead of the tool using you, you use the tool. The ego is an interface device. It has its uses, but you better be the one. You better be the tool user. If one should be the tool user if they want to get the most out of the personality structure, which is egoic. I mean, there is nothing inherently wrong with it other than when it runs amok and doesn't have a sentient being kind of overseeing it. Hey, Sarath. Well, I did see the crescent. I saw the crescent 2 nights ago. That's when it looked like an incisor. And but I saw it. I looked for it at sundown and I couldn't see it. So I went out a little bit later and then I finally saw it, but it was already sinking below the tree level. So I ran inside, opened up a stellarium so I could at least kind of, and I saw that it was leaving. It had kind of like just come outside the left claw of the crab. And so that, I would say, when I saw it was probably 30 to 45 minutes after, the technical sunset, when you want to get the real reading of where it was. So it seemed to me it was pretty clearly in the crab, and maybe at sunset it might have actually been more like towards the face of the crab. But when I saw it, it was just leaving the left claw. Well, I'm really glad you could join us. Your Scottish friend was here at the beginning, and then had to say goodnight because it's let's see right now. So it's like 6 o'clock in the morning where you are, isn't it? Or coming on 6 o'clock in the morning for you, Sarath. Yeah, I've been looking. I'm subscribed to. I'm talking to you, Mythophrenikus, and to everybody. But because you're the one who's making me. Oh, right. I did the wrong math. Yes, I definitely did the wrong math. 4 p.m. makes not 3:50, of course. Yeah. I had, for some reason, I really did the wrong math. So. Thank you for the correction. Thank you for the correction. Because that's what in planetary tantra, we don't have right and wrong so much as we have error and correction. Error is, error, and correction is correction of errors. And if you really enjoy being in her way, her Tao, well then if you do err, you welcome correction. So thank you for the correction. And that's the whole thing, is you want, that's why you don't want a, one of those kind of fragile egos, because then correction seems like, ooh, it made me wrong. And again, the word wrong doesn't even apply. It was an error. Errors can happen. And then if you're surrounded by people who care and also want to be correct, they will correct you. And then you're grateful for correction. But yeah, so I'm subscribed to Ginny, Hans Carlson, and Mandela Effect Decoded, which is John Lash's YouTube site. And I'm missing Radio Guy in him. And I know when Ginny went away for 2 weeks, and that's when I was talking about John and I might do something together. So she was trying to hook, it's like, I'm going to be gone, so why don't you guys do something while in my absence? And then she came, hello, any among us? And then she came back, and it's been a little quiet there. I loved the Radio Guy in him, and also because it was kind of coming out like every week, 10 days, 2 weeks, and those of us who really do enjoy planetary tantra and feel a lot of love and affection for John Lam Lash, we love it when he comes out with, and just shares with us, because then it's, we're sharing, and that's what it is. Our teacher is sharing with us, but it's hardly, it's a good open. It's a good open forum, and I like it because when he was doing, he at least had Ginny there, and Ginny holds her own pretty well. I like Ginny. So I just, I'm just wish for more content, and I did ask, hey, John, I said, by the way, anytime, I noticed he's really busy, and he's trying to get the Nemitta thing going, which is an online, kind of like the beginning of an online mystery school, but it will have real world things, but he keeps himself very, very busy. On your mongoose. In case you're wondering why Matt Finger saying on your mongoose, that was my mangling of Any Among Us when I first read it. So it's kind of like a little bit of an in-joke for us. Oh, that's thank you, Mytho. Well, it's interesting that name Magus. It could almost be another way of pronouncing, in a different spelling, of course. Magus. I'm really enjoying where John is taking planetary tantra, and I know he wants to get this done. He's been at this a long time. I'll be, but yeah, Madfinger, it is. This is a great clan that is gathered here. It really is good. I love it, and I'm happy that we've managed to create this together. Because we created it. John referred to me one time. He called me the master of ceremonies. So, MC Modwiz here for you. I'm pretty sure everybody here knows that Saroth the Mage has his own YouTube channel. And, he kind of started, he's doing different magical things, and he's finding, like anybody who does a live stream, you kind of go out there and then you look at your work, and it's kind of like, when I make a recording, sometimes I'll put out a thing, I'll do a recording of a song and go, okay, can I put, let me listen back to that. Maybe I can put that up on YouTube. I listen back and I go, nah, that ain't going up. Got to clear this up, got to do that right, got to do this right, then we'll put it up. So Sarath the Mage has a YouTube channel. He's a delightful person, and he's fun to be with, and he might check him out. That's the best. That's that's what I'll say. That's the name. You type it into the YouTube search engine, and you will find his YouTube channel. And then don't forget, I Walk puts music videos out, and it's almost, he's right. He's writing music that in many ways is kind of like providing a little bit of a soundtrack for this mystical journey we're all on here. And that's one of the, I said this over a year ago, and I've presenced it a few more times. There's something about this period of, where I think we are going to change the world. Something that there was a sense of in the 60s and 70s, let's call it the Woodstock era. There was that sense of changing the world. Unfortunately, we took too many drugs. And we, and things got infiltrated. Once again, any good movement gets infiltrated. But one of the beautiful things about being both into dreaming and having a Sophianic narrative, and so knowing what that creepy archontic feeling is, it's going to be, I don't think there's going to be a successful invasion of planetary tantra. We're as seers and mystics and, doing shamanic work, it's not the kind of place where somebody can slip in and commit fuckery. It was very easy in the peace and love of the 60s, and especially the drug haze. Any smooth kind of person could show up, and especially if you brought some goodies with you, oh, you'd be the star. So I don't, that whole movement got infiltrated at every level and failed. But this one will not fail. And so when it comes to I Walk, but the 60s, that whole thing had a soundtrack to it. I mean, when four of the protesters at Kent State were killed by the National Guard, Crosby, Stills and Nash wrote Ohio, 4 dead in Ohio. So, there was, that movement had a soundtrack that went with it, and even had it wasn't just a soundtrack that was kind of cool music for doing it. Certain people were actually addressing what was happening in the streets and in our minds and writing songs about it. So having a soundtrack as a backdrop for what we're doing, I think, is really cool. Yeah, Mytho is just like, doing great stuff. I mean, between Mytho and Raksha, there's some really good, there's a lot going, a lot of good thought stuff, as far as like, the depth of the content and the context of the content. That was for you. That was for you, Niche. That's the synchronicity bell. One of the nice things about the synchronicity bell is sometimes when you're in the middle of a conversation with a bunch of people and a synchronicity occurs, you don't have to interrupt anybody. Go, oh, I got to tell you synchronicity. In the middle of a conversation, I can just do this. And everybody knows a synchronicity has happened. So that's the synchronicity bell. Let me show you what it is. Actually, it's kind of cool. It's got the top, and I got to go into my camera so I can make sure you're seeing it. So this is the bell in its entirety. Okay, it's a nice little, I think it's, I think it's bronze actually, and I think bronze is can be very musically rich. This one is okay, but what at the top of it is Krishna playing a flute. That's who's at the top of this bell, Krishna. So that's the synchronicity bell. Then I have another bell that's not from India. It's just, or maybe it is made from India, but and it's clunky. It's on a string. And then wait, I gotta show you let me show you the monster. Come on. I'm palming it so it doesn't ring before I get here. This was given to me by actually my third wife, who got it from somebody from the Dharma bums who has personally met the Dalai Lama. So this is like from Tibet. As you can see, it's a really big thing, and I'm going to pull it away from the mic. So those are my 3 bells, and then I have one. The final bell is this one, which has a beautiful tone. But, so you can do that, but the real way you're supposed to do it is this way. So there's 2 ways to use it. You can kind of, use it as a regular bell, or you can get it to really, really ring. I really like that one. And then kind of like what Mythos said, I do have this set. This is something you can tie around one's ankle. Let me get back so I can see what I'm doing. And these are silver bells. And so when you have them on your ankles, you just kind of did little sounds like that. And it looks nice on my ankle. I actually got this when I was with my son's mother, before my son was born. And I kind of inherited this. They had a bunch of these, and because they were bears where they originally moved, and so they put these on all the kids. So when they walked, the bears would hear the jingling. And bears are pretty polite, and if they know you're coming and you're not and they're just kind of moving around, they usually avoid you. So now I kind of inherited this, and it's really quite nice. I'll bet you do. I knew. Yeah, belly dance. Oh, you rang your singing bowl today. Okay, so that requires this. Yeah, it did sound like a ship's bell, didn't it, Sarath? I agree. Yes, Foxadre, you got it. The 60s was hijacked by the CIA, the U.S. government, and corporations at all. Yes, they did. Absolutely. But as the Who sang, won't get fooled again. The fools will always get fooled, but hopefully there'll be just a few less fools this time. I know there will be, because planetary tantra does not tolerate fools, and I don't mean the people. I'm talking about the practice of planetary tantra. You just really can't do planetary tantra and be, that kind of fool. We can all be kind of like a tarot fool. Nothing wrong with being a tarot fool type, the tarot type fool. So, we're going to start winding down. We're crossed the 2-hour part, and Can't You Hear Me Gnostic will usually be a 2-hour live stream. Some of the more informational ones, and so I'm waiting. August 1st will be my big rollout of my new schedule. It's also the time where I'm going, prior to that, I'll be releasing more things about how I'd like to try and have a little bit of subscriber support for the channel, so that I can be relaxed enough in meeting my requirements, so that I can focus on making this a really rich channel, in music, alternative history research, the chronology, herbs and essential oils, and of course, Can't You Hear Me Gnostic. But some of them will require me to give good show. Will require me to really, especially with the essential oils and the herbs, because there's very real chemistry involved in both essential oils and herbs, and because of my scientific training, I do well in that kind of organic chemistry. And organic chemistry is more about name recognition, recognizing the names of the chemistry, and knowing the effects that they have on the body. Mainly, largely the body. There's, obviously body and mind are together. But I would like to get people acquainted, because then there are certain constituents that you will find that you will that you identify, and then you realize they're in more than one herb or essential oil, but it's in certain cases it might be the dominant chemistry, and other places it's more of a supportive chemistry, and you start having a greater understanding of how to really use herbs and essential oils. Because the only good, for me, the only real good knowledge is the knowledge that has a utility to it. The kind of those reference books that you're pulling out all the time because they're full of good stuff, as opposed to stuff that you read. But what's the practical application of all this? Oh, I'm glad to hear that, any among us. Good night, Christopher, or good day. I'm not sure where you are, so be well. So let me... Uncle Butchie. Where's Uncle Butchie 1? I really would like to get, because it's only like a 3-minute song or something. I'll be darned if I know where I stashed it. Oh, maybe I put it in my Mystic Brew. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'll give it a... Gonna close down the my desktop audio. I'm gonna mute for a second. Good, it's kind of low, so you won't hear me previewing it so much. Ah, found it. Okay. All right. All right, so now I'm gonna turn on all the things. So, video. Okay, turn off my desktop audio here. That's my mic, desktop audio, the other one. So this should be, you know, you won't be. I'm gonna turn off my mic so you just kind of, so you don't kind of get an echo effect on it. And I'm just gonna play this. This song is called "Foggy Mountain Breakdown." Let me just turn it up a bit here, and hope it's. I'll be monitoring it. If it starts out distorted, I will see it. I'm gonna be watching it, and if it redlines, I'll just cut. You know, I'll be able to cut it down and manage it. But let's see. Get into the chat here. All right. So, I'm going to mute my mic. All right, let me make sure I got all these. Yeah, we got. Okay, my mic is live now again. So it was too low, huh? Do I need to do a set? I mean, it's like a 2-minute song. Okay, so everybody heard it enough? Yeah, Butch is an amazing banjo player. And he actually, you know, when he shows, a lot of times when we do rehearsals, sometimes, you know, he's had rough days and stuff. So, you know, he comes in. But when we play live, you know, we all kind of shine when we're playing out. But that one I want to put out on a separate video. But whenever I put out videos, I always have to find kind of complementary pictures, so that, you know, it's not just a music video. And I don't like to have just necessarily one static picture. But maybe I'll find one good static picture and post that, and then get, you know, the 2-minute video up so everybody can listen to Uncle Butchie. And Uncle Butchie should be correctly known as Butch Robbins. Okay, no, I'll do it right now, because it's only 2 minutes, so it's pretty easy to kind of get that managed. All right, I'm going to turn it down while I find it. All right, take 2. Windows Media Player, we'll turn that up. Come in here, turn off my mic temporarily. Okay, now we should be able to hear me. Sarah, you know, it comes from a kind of a bluegrass background, but if you listen to my bass playing, that's not. It depends. If the bass is really rich in that mix, I was going direct into the board, so there's a really good bass signal into that. But you need, you know, if you listen, like if I listen through the speakers I have on my desk, I can kind of hear the bass. When I put my headphones on, the bass is really there. And so, yeah, that's called Foggy Mountain Breakdown. But, you know, we don't call ourselves a bluegrass band. And I mean, again, I'm not playing your typical bluegrass bass. I mean, especially in that song, I'm playing some bass that, you know, it's kind of like it's almost like getting that feel, but in almost like a Jack Bruce approach to that in some of the things I'm doing. And in many ways, when I first got introduced to that song, it kind of reminded me when I was playing with Butch of Crossroads by Cream. Yeah, so that was quite a good session. I'm now experimenting with capturing our live performances with multiple mics. So I have a separate mic for Butch, a separate mic for the drummer, but we probably should get him a bass drum mic. And then I take the feed out of my amp, because I'm the only one playing with electric, and I plug the feed out of my amp, has a line out, and I put that into the board. So I'm getting, you know, the other mics are picking up my bass, but I have a direct line into the board, so that allows the bass to be rich. And the mic that I use for Butch really is capturing a sound really well. So that's how I wanted to kind of close this Can't You Hear Me Gnostic with the banjo playing of Butch Robbins and his band Uncle Butchie, and I'm the bass player. So thank you all for joining myself and everybody who's present and making this a nice a pleasant clan gathering. As far as somebody called it a clan, well, just, you know, it's a generic clan. And I hope you all found it worth your time. That's the most important thing. You were here for for 2 hours plus, and hopefully that was 2 hours plus that was again 2 hours well spent. And so, with that, let me say good night with great love. Remember to presence the fact that when you wake up when you wake up from your kind of personal dreaming, you enter into the planetary animal mother's dreaming. And if you take that on and understand that, and then when you presence it, it changes things. I mean, sometimes I'll be here, and I'm trying to like maybe pull a rolling paper out or something, and it's like, where's my coordination? And I go, I'm in the dreaming, and immediately something that was eluding me for the past 10 seconds suddenly becomes effortless. Anytime I presence the dreaming, I mean, even like sometimes it's even like opening up an incense pack. It's like, oh man, how can I get this and I can't get that? As soon as I go, I'm in the dreaming, everything cooperates. So I just might want to leave you with that. Remember, if you can take on board that we live in our Sophia's dreaming, that's kind of the nature of our environment, and then presence that, especially, it'll provide for a better day, or even a better 10 seconds if you can hold it that long. It's a matter of in and out, but I find the more time that I presence it, the more it becomes like full-time operative. It's how much beauty can you take? So, I am now going to stop the stream. Good night, all.